Steve Dangle Podcast. Powered by Sports Interaction. Wanna bet?
SDP. The Steve Dangle Podcast. With your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
All right, hey, welcome to the Steve Dangle Podcast live from Nashville. Woo. If we sound a little bit slower this morning, it's because we had a bit of a late night last night at Erik Young's. I want to run you through.
I'm fine.
The biggest lie told in Nashville today was Julian McKenzie telling the world that he wasn't hungover.
Oh, get out.
When he was
my God.
very much, very hungover.
Extremely.
It was a fun night. I do want to give a shout out to Shakir, who is a big SDP listener who was in security screening. I walked in.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see him too?
Yeah, we came through the same one.
Yeah.
He's like, I just had Adam.
Yeah. He's like, I was watching you guys on YouTube last night. So I want to shout him out and all the screeners there. And we get onto the plane, and the three of us are sitting together. Justin and Drew are the row ahead of us, and who's next to us is Mike Zeisberger from NHL.com.
Big Z,
who is just awesome. Lots of fun to talk to him on the way. Love Mike. So we get here, we drop our stuff, and then Jesse's got like an itinerary planned, like he's your mom and you're going on a family vacation.
No, we had a bunch of content we got to shoot because we got to do stuff while we're here. So
we did pretty well.
We headed down to Broadway, and we did a lot of fun stuff. I don't know, like I don't know when it's going to be released.
Yeah, it'll be
soon. Within the next couple of days.
Drew's working on it.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
Short thing, mechanical bull, eating hot chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
We also did the bachelorette party thing, which is the thing to do in Nashville, where you get on those pedal bikes.
Yeah. Bar bike, pedal tavern, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
It was an absolute riot. We ended up with people from, I think, some people from Tennessee, some people from Michigan, and then Virginia. And it was, but the crazy thing is, we walk up, and there's a group of guys who are in their early 20s, I think, and they're like, holy shit. They're like, we just filled out our bingo card. And we're like, what are you talking about? So these guys are SDP fans. They came down for the draft. They're from New Jersey, and they had a bingo card of things they want to do here in Nashville. And one of them, it says "Meet Steve Dangle" on it.
Yeah.
And they were a riot. They were so much fun.
And they're like, we did a shot with you last year in Montreal. Do you remember?
Yeah.
No.
It took me a solid 2 minutes, but I did get there.
Oh, yeah?
You did.
Because I was like, when would I have... Because on the last night, we went to a bar that was just stuffed with every member of hockey media. It was crazy. But I think those guys just walked in towards the end, and they're like, oh, I recognize that person. What the hell's going on here? And they gave me a shot, and the one guy goes, you ate the lemon. Because that's my one like party stunt that I do when I'm too drunk.
That's disgusting.
You eat the rind
the
too?
tequila shot, and I eat the entire thing.
That's disgusting.
Why do you do that?
Those
value?
are so dirty.
Yeah,
I
have
know.
you ever read those articles?
Yeah.
I always tell people in the bar, like, don't put a lemon in my drink ever.
Yeah, but it was one of my first big excursions after COVID. I wanted to build the immune system back up.
Oh, my goodness.
So gross. Now, there was, I don't want to spend too much time on that because there was a lot of hockey yesterday. And we'll start with, I think the deal that people were kind of really surprised by, which is Tyler Toffoli to New Jersey for Sarangovic. And we found out this morning that Sarangovic re-signed in Calgary for $3.1 million per year over 2 years. Third-round pick will also be Calgary's way, and that's in today's draft. But, I mean, for a guy who had 34 goals and 73 points on a team in Calgary that couldn't score, Tyler Toffoli in New Jersey is going to be pretty scary.
Oh, my God. I think they became... more of what they are. I think players, get stuck with labels like Tyler Toffoli, maybe small.
Yeah.
Right? And New Jersey got stuck with the label small. And I screwed that up looking into the playoffs, seeing them play the Rangers. And I'm like, oh, the Rangers are going to run them over.
Yeah.
First 2 games, I looked like a genius. And then the Devils, I think, won the next. Did that series go 7?
I think it did.
Whatever. They won. The Devils did. But Toffoli's also a cup champion already. Yeah. And like you said, he was, maybe the best forward or best winger anyway on a Calgary team that couldn't score. Like the Devils are going to – I'd be very surprised if they weren't a top 5 offense next season, if not top.
It felt like last year was the Devils' coming out party, and all those years. Remember all those buildups every year? It's like, oh, the Devils, they're going to be good, and they have all these prospects, and they're going to be good. And then finally they did it, and they're like, oh, the Devils are good now. Yeah. And then now they're a problem. Yeah. Now it's like they're a thing to be reckoned with in the East. So
and
it's exciting.
Great extensions. The sign, like the Jack Hughes extension, incredible. The Nico Hischier extension, really incredible.
Timo Meier.
Jesper Bratt. And Timo Meier is going to get his done probably in the next few days,
They
right?
were rumored, I got to have my phone.
I don't even know if they qualified him yet, but...
It's going to be 8 years, something,
Yeah.
No, they're going to, I think, lead the league in scoring. And they, I like Sharon Govich, man, but that is not a great price for Calgary.
It's not. And it's interesting. This isn't a great quote for Calgary. And by the way, Allan Walsh is joining us in about 5 minutes. He's on his way. He just
really?
wants to kind of pop in and say hello.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. He's coming to the house. He did his GM tour this morning, and he's like, I want to pop by and be on the show. We're like, okay, where's he going to sit?
Squeeze him right next to Adam.
We got a couch. We'll get all buddy.
Not next to the guy you host a podcast with. He's got to sit there.
Yeah. Well, so Toffoli said this. He said, I was waiting for an extension conversation, and there was none coming, and it didn't feel like there was one in the future. It didn't sound like there was any sort of need for me or want in a way, so it was a personal decision. I thought it was time for myself and my wife to experience something different and move forward. And I know Flames fans are upset with this quote, but from everything that we have heard...
They gave a decent chunk for him.
They did, but everything we have heard is they dragged their feet. And you know what? The Flames have done this before. They did this famously with Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau never got the real offer that he was supposed to get from the Flames until about 10 minutes to midnight on free agency last year. And this is why the Flames and Murray Edwards specifically need to take a real good hard look at how they're treating the players that are the most productive for them. Because, listen, Toffoli wanted to stay. He liked it there. He was a pro Sutter guy, but it's not Sutter that's why he's leaving. But when he said, I want an extension and let's work on that, and we're counting down to the draft here and you got nothing done, there's obviously some sort of conversation that happened between him and Craig Conroy, and Craig Conroy has to jump on that. He has to jump on that. Sharon Govich is not enough to offset, A, what you gave up, and B, what you gave up in talent.
I think, I want to say you said at some point there's going to be a deep dive on the Calgary Flames, and I can't wait to read it because... this was one of the main criticisms of Brad Treliving, and now the person who's taken over the job from him appears to be making the same mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to want out, and that extends back to Gaudreau left. Tkachuk wanted out of Calgary. Toffoli. We don't have an answer on Elias Lindholm. Noah Hannafin. Michael Backlund might be going. What is happening in Calgary right now? What is going on?
I asked Julian about it this morning a little bit and asked CJ about it, and I'm not, speaking out of school here. It seems like the ball's sort of rolling downhill for the Flames because you look at this, right? Lindholm has been pitched twice in the last 2 weeks on an 8-year extension, and apparently the second pitch was a couple days ago here in Nashville, and both times he's resisted that. So you're looking at Lindholm, who's the centerpiece of this team. Toffoli's already gone. Gaudreau and Tkachuk last year. Kadri and Huberdeau, unfortunately, just didn't work out under that coach. But you're looking at this, and now Hannafin apparently wants to go back to the States. He's from Massachusetts. And Backlund, who just won a leadership award, has been there 14 years. He's got to be looking at it as a 35-year-old, and he's a dyed-in-the-wool flame.
Yeah.
But this is a team that is very quickly seeing their Stanley Cup window close. And in fact, I think it's done. Why is the question? Well, okay. So I wondered if it was just like a domino effect. Okay, we thought we would have good replacements with Huberdeau and Kadri. That didn't quite work. But if we gave it another year, it might be a thing. But if Toffoli starts to say, okay, I'm not going to be in. And then if you're Hannafin and you had any doubts, you're probably like, okay, well, maybe this is my time too. Kind of like with Tkachuk. And then Backlund's looking at it like, well, if those two guys are gone, I want to win a cup. I'm not going to win it here. And then Lindholm may not want to be there, and I think that's the major piece for the other two guys. If Lindholm is not going to stay,
he's at such a good number.
It might not be that they don't. It might not be even a culture thing in Calgary. Although we know there was something with the coach, it might just be I need a different window. And this team's window, and I'm not interested in a rebuild.
So, Flames fans listening to this, who knows? Maybe this will be out of date by the time you listen to it. Probably will. But this doesn't mean the Flames need to stink. And this doesn't mean they need to get rid of everybody for futures. That's sort of what we thought was going to happen with the Winnipeg Jets and Pierre-Luc Dubois, because they were painted into a corner. It looked like it was only going to be one team. They were going to get like a third and a fifth or something. And who do they get? 3 dudes who are going to be on the Jets roster and a future.
It was a great trade. We'll get into it more.
We'll get into it more later. But that is a real, like, the Jets get out of a tight situation, and you could argue got better. Like, I mean, the best player in the trade is Pierre-Luc Dubois, but like, I like Iafallo.
Like Velarde.
I like Velarde. Oh, yeah. Kupari's got some future in him. So, like, I don't really think the Jets take a step backward there. Also, there needs to be more of a fully fledged out picture there. Scheifele, Hellebuck. Well, now that I think of it, it's extremely similar to the Flames because they have all these moving pieces too. So I don't love the Toffoli trade for them, but that doesn't need to mean that next year is a huge step backwards.
They're going to have to play this smart. I think a seemingly innocuous quote by Craig Conroy that should be obvious is now biting them a little bit. Because he came up and he said, and I don't know if it's biting him specifically, but he comes up in his introductory press conference and rightfully says, we want players here that want to be here.
You're right.
Right.
And now what he's finding is a lot of them don't.
No one wants.
And if that's your ethos, you got to stick to that. So, they wanted to remain competitive, and why wouldn't they? They wanted to be win now, and why wouldn't they if you look at their roster up until yesterday? I wonder if this domino effect has changed now, because if I were him this morning, I'd be sitting down and going, okay, none of these guys want to stick around. We can't take the risk of losing Lindholm next year in free agency. We could try to maybe convince him over the course of the year with the new head coach and maybe Huberdeau bouncing back and Kadri bouncing back and not being injured. But is this maybe a time for Calgary to do a quick retool?
You could sell at the deadline, but you don't want to. You don't want to be in a position where you're like, oh, this guy's contract's expiring. Let's get rid of him because we're not going to make the playoffs anyway.
Yeah.
They want to. So
sometimes the best way to do it is to be active. Get if it's Lindholm as the guy and you look at the return you got for Pierre-Luc Dubois, Lindholm's an unquestionably better player with a better resume.
There's
He's older.
Few teams losing their mind. Like, LA, obviously. Boston's cap situation is actually not great.
Mm-hmm. They were already over from last year, were they not?
They have like $11 million in space, but 6 forwards.
Yeah, that's the reason why Taylor Hall has to leave.
Yeah,
No, that's after Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno.
But that's why they have to make those moves.
Yeah, and Bertuzzi won't be back.
Yeah, but they have defenders. So do you? Is there maybe a Calgary-Boston deal that could be done there? I see that making some sense.
They're in a tricky spot too because they don't want to be bad. Like, it'd be so much easier if they wanted to be bad, to just sell off and all that stuff. But they can't, unfortunately.
Do the players force your hand? Like, is this where the players basically say, we're leaving, so you're going to have to return?
No, there are other players. Like, Calgary has good players, and you can get good players back if you're creative.
That is the good news.
Yeah.
The good news is you have assets.
Yeah.
A smart management group should be able to do something with this, even if it's not totally in your favor.
Guy like Lindholm potentially becoming available is fascinating. I mean, you got
all of them.
If Pierre-Luc Dubois is 8.5 over 8, and you can understand why he's 24-year-old center or whatever, and it fits LA perfectly for I think what they're trying to do. What does Lindholm pull back in return, and then what's that extension look like? If you look at Huberdeau's extension, 8 years, 10.5 per, how would it be any different?
He loses points for being older than Dubois. He gains points for being better than Dubois, at least right now at this stage in his career. Like Lindholm, I want to say is 27, 28. And you're going to sign him.
He's a 40-goal scorer.
Yes, but you're also going to sign him to 8 years, and at least 3 of those years he's not going to be worth the money that you're paying him because he'll be, I don't know, 33, 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't that old.
No, it's...
it's just
NHL.
Easy
for you to say, Jesse.
I'm just saying, like, he can still be productive at 34. It's probably not the fullest of the contract.
Yeah, but at $8 million?
But here's the thing, and we'll get into this with the Kampf deal later, too. Remember where the cap's going. this is not going to be people are looking at this in a flat cap world. Lindholm's extension won't even kick in until the cap goes up by like $4.5 million.
Do you know anyone who knows anything about the cap situation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no! You can't. Don't tell me that it's not gonna stay flat next year.
No. I'm saying let's bring on your.
Let's ask.
Oh, you mean Walsh?
Yeah.
Let's bring him on.
Go get
Maybe
him.
he knows something.
All right.
Your bat looks a lot bigger when it's not surrounded by other bats. Wouldn't you say? It stands out.
Other bats.
Baseball is back.
I feel like you should have gone with like other baseballs or grass.
Well, because we're talking about your bat here, right? We want you to have a nice, clean bat.
yeah, the
for the
bat.
summer.
The bat looks bigger when it's not surrounded by grass.
Okay.
Would be a better
Sure.
analogy.
Okay. Yeah, if your bat's in tall grass.
Yeah.
Okay.
There
We're
you
getting
go.
there.
Okay.
Like, you don't want Field of Dreams. We don't want to hide your bat in the thing in the back of the Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Trim your Wrigley Field.
There you go.
There,
Bingo.
yeah, there it is.
And you get 20% off with Manscaped if you use the promo code DANGLE. 20% off and free shipping. Now, we've already told you about the Lawnmower 4.0. And basically, it is the Mike Trout of trimmers. Your confidence level will be sky high like a well-hit baseball from Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. What about here? I got one.
Okay, go.
Shave the bat, which is also it's like the base of your penis.
What?
That's what the ad read says.
Use the promo code DANGLE for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Again, it's promo code DANGLE, 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com, and DANGLE is spelled DANGLE.
That was the worst thing you've ever done.
That's terrible.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming Gary Bettman's biggest fan. It's Allan Walsh, the agent provocateur. Allan, thanks for stopping by. So this morning, I know that you were out doing your runs and that sort of thing, you know. So the fact that you even have time for us on draft day is actually shocking to me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, but I was.
It's you guys.
We got to get you, Mike, a little bit closer. There we go. Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's us. Well, I mean. So what has the last few days look like for you? Last summer was extremely busy. Yep. A lot of major clients moving and that sort of thing. What's it like this year?
You're wheeling guys around who are having interviews with different NHL teams who are eligible for the draft, who are in town. And you're getting all your ducks in a row when it comes to preparing for free agency.
And how you feeling about all that?
I feel good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I love this time of year.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot of sleep. You don't sleep a lot anyway.
No. I probably last night 3 hours.
But that's normal for
That's
you.
a lot for you, right?
Yeah, actually, I was.
Why so lazy?
That's one thing people say about me. You need to work harder.
Oh, yeah.
This guy doesn't do enough. Oh my God.
So, okay, from an agent's perspective, you touched down when? When did you get in here?
I got in Monday noon.
Okay. And then you're obviously got the awards that night. Do you go to that, the NHL awards?
I do.
Okay. And is there business done there, or is that just kind of like a party sort of, hi, everybody, like,
Every interaction is transactional in the sense that you're doing some sort of business. Right? So I got in, and then Tuesday, there's a bit of a curveball thrown at me. 2 of my players coming in from Europe were stranded in New York area airports in the severe thunderstorms.
Ugh.
And we just kept putting them on the next flight, and every flight canceled.
oh my God.
Wow. They spent like 8, 9, 10 hours, ended up having to spend the night in New York City, and then even the next morning there are no flights. They ultimately ended up renting cars
And driving.
and drove 14 hours from New York City to Nashville. And some of them just got in middle of the night last night.
Can we ask who they were?
No. Actually, I would amend that. You can ask, but I'm not telling you.
Got it. That's hilarious.
Do you have quite a few prospects in this draft?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of weird sitting next to you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We rarely get to see each other. It's funny, you know? It's like,
This is only, the third time I think we've met?
like in person.
Yeah.
Montreal. Toronto.
Yeah, we had a late night in Toronto.
Yeah.
Allan kept us up real late at a dinner
on a school night.
Yeah, and I was like, oh God, I got to be up at 4:30. He's like, you can do it, man. You'll be fine. But I think what's so exciting about the draft too is there's a lot of hope in the air, right? There's especially for the kids and that sort of thing. What do you tell them going into tonight? Because you'll probably have a phone call with each of them a few times today. Mm-hmm. What do you tell them? What do you tell their families going into tonight?
That the draft is a momentous milestone in their careers, but it is only a snapshot of what teams think of you on this particular day. And getting drafted, even if you're a high first-round pick, only puts you on the starting line. That's where it puts you. You've been doing all this work up till now to get to the starting line.
Yeah.
And only, to me, the draft is when the gun goes off and the run starts. That's what it is. And if you go back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and do a redraft of the players knowing what we know now, it'd be completely different.
Sure. I mean, you look at David Jiricek, where he went 6 last year. And we were talking about it, I think, earlier. It was either on the show or not. I can never tell when I remember our conversations whether they were on the air or not. But, you redraft that, he's probably top 3.
Or maybe even number 1.
Yeah. He's really had an outstanding year.
He was, wasn't he 5?
6.
Oh, 6.
Yeah.
6 to Columbus and AHL Rookie Defenseman of the Year.
Yeah. Right. Not that anyone's keeping score.
No.
He was actually one of the highlights, him meeting his family last year in Montreal.
Yeah.
We still talk about it.
Oh,
He's just a good guy.
His dad, who's just older him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They're like twins. It's crazy. A nice person. Told us all about beer and that sort of thing in his neck of the woods. So
where Pilsner was invented.
Now, here's the thing. David Jiricek has a younger brother who is the same size as David, who is eligible for the NHL draft next year.
That's crazy. Who's his agent?
I'll give you 3 guesses.
What's his name?
Adam.
Oh,
Adam Jiricek.
You know what? First overall pick for sure. Then.
Yeah.
And Adam's a defenseman.
He's a right shot defenseman, just like his older brother.
And nobody likes those.
Yeah, they're not in demand at all.
Every team has too many.
Yeah. So I want to ask.
Only the LA Kings.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about that. So Sean,
keep up with me, Steve.
Sean Durzee's off to Arizona. He's going to get pretty big opportunity there. And this is a guy that has had a really good development curve, worked in a great system in Los Angeles too, right? When you got Drew Doughty to look up to every day, it's kind of it's a nice sort of map as to what it's going to take. He was also drawing pretty major minutes, right? He was 19, 20 minutes a game.
Yep.
What do you expect for Sean, as far as you can tell, with the situation with Bill Armstrong and the whole group in Arizona?
Well, I think he's going to play top pair minutes, and he's going to be probably the leading D-man on the first PP unit.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the potential to put up a 50-point-plus season this coming year.
And he's got to be pretty darn excited about that.
He's definitely excited about the opportunity. I mean, every player wants to play. Mm-hmm. And the LA Kings were wonderful to him as an organization. Mm-hmm. They really were. I mean, it's the only real organization he got to really know. He was drafted by the Leafs, but, other than development camp, wasn't really part of it. And I think that he felt, and I felt, that there was only a certain ceiling that he could hit in LA because of the players that are already there.
Exactly.
There was a backlog on where he wanted to play.
Yeah.
Right.
And a front log, really.
Sorry. Yeah. Front log.
Yeah.
Look at it that way.
Yeah. To the point where last season he played almost exclusively on the left side.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Is he excited to move back to the right?
Well, he played right his entire career, and he never played left until last year. And I think that's another tool in his toolbox, the fact that he embraced it. Mm-hmm. And not everybody would.
He can do it.
And he showed that he can do it.
It's not surprising when you go back because I did a trade breakdown for SDPN about that specific trade, and I referenced our interview with him the season before. It's not surprising that a guy like him would take, the challenge of it. For people who are watching this are like, it's just the left side of the ice. It's like, yeah, but in the NHL it really does. Maybe at rec league hockey you don't care so much, but in the NHL those things really do matter with comfort and where the boards are and how you're receiving the puck and all of those things.
And passing, cross ice.
Exactly.
Right shot coming up on the left side. There's a tendency to always go to the backhand, and you lose a little bit of velocity on the cross ice passes when you're going on the backhand. It's definitely a challenge.
And I'm just not surprised that he would be excited for a challenge like this. He just seems like a guy who just gets up for challenges. Period.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to give us any insight on how you receive a trade like that? Like how that information gets to you and then how you relay it to Dursey, or if it's the other way around? Are you allowed to speak on that?
Why not?
I'd love to know.
Well, only if you can.
Yeah. I don't know if you're breaking it.
We're going to ask you questions, and if we can't, we can't.
Because I don't think that's an aspect of the game the average fan knows. Like, how does this get to your ears and to Dursey's ears?
Okay, so Sean Dursey and his brothers had arranged a 25th wedding anniversary party for his parents. And it was at the parents' house in the backyard. There was caterers, florists, and something like 75, 80 people invited. And the party was just about to start.
No.
And I get a call from Rob Blake. And he says, hey, Allan, it's, Blakey here. Do you know how to get a hold of Sean Dursey? And the moment he said that, I knew.
Right. Are you allowed to ask at that point?
Yeah. And I said, what's going on? He goes, well, I hate to make these calls. You hate to make these calls, but we had to make a trade. We've got some other things, in the hopper, and we're really jammed up on the right side. So Sean's been traded to Arizona, and I just want to get a hold of him and talk to him myself before it gets released or ends up on Twitter or anything like that. Do you know how to reach him? And I said, well, he's got a busy day right now. There's 75 people in the backyard for his parents' wedding anniversary. And he's like, oh, geez. I said, I'll reach him and have him call you. And I called Sean, and he picked up, and I gave him the news. And I said, nothing is going to be released right now until you call Blakey, and then you can expect it to go everywhere pretty quick. And that's what happened.
When things like that, because they can leak, right? They can leak. Sometimes organizations have leaks or whatever. When they leak, does a GM call you apologizing, going, hey, I wanted to get a hold of you, but somehow this got out? Like, how does that happen?
It's not important to me that the GM contact me. Mm-hmm. What's really important to me is that the GM contact the player before he hears about it anywhere else. Forget about me, but I'm okay with the player calling me and saying, I just got a call from the GM and my GM and I've been traded. That's fine. But what I really don't like is the GM not calling the player, not calling me, and seeing it get out there. And there's all different ways that trades get leaked out there. It could be somebody with a team. It could be somebody with the league who registers the trade on the trade call. There's all different ways that it could get out there. I just think that unless a player is in several different time zones and you've made multiple attempts to reach him through, directly reaching out to him, text message, and calling his agent. I've personally aware of trades that have held tight for over a day because they couldn't reach a player.
Someone was on a pool noodle in Muskoka.
Yeah.
Just floating around.
Yeah. Phone's on Do Not Disturb or something like that. Yeah.
Someone's on holiday in Italy.
Yeah.
And they got to reach somebody,
I'm sure Sean has lots of friends throughout the league, but you had Boko Imama, who was on the Arizona Coyotes. Is that the sort of situation where, to help get Sean familiarized with the market, you would sort of hook the two up, and Boko can give you a lay of the land sort of thing?
I think that players on the team, the top guys, will naturally reach out to a player who's been traded.
Right.
And, hey, welcome to the team. You need anything, I'm here.
Yeah.
And they discuss stuff like, where do you live? Where should I live? All different stuff like that. I don't necessarily need to hook one guy up that I represent with another one that I represent unless there's a specific reason to do that.
Okay.
Wow. This is, it's funny getting it from your perspective because, we hear the reports and the reporters are doing their jobs. They're getting the information out there, that sort of thing. But the human element, like 75 people in his backyard, it always happens that way. I think there's either stories of someone's at a wedding or someone is, just got engaged or whatever, and these things happen. And it's funny because the players have to save a lot of their family engagements and any family like life events for this time of year because the rest of the year is just hockey. Right. So it's just a bit of a perfect storm. Allan, and again, if you can't answer this, you can't answer this, but there's obviously, there's some movement in the Allan Walsh camp. Wanted to ask you about Max Pacioretty.
Yeah.
What are we expecting from him this summer? What kind of situation are you guys looking for? And is he ready to come back?
I will be on a week after free agency, and I can answer that question.
Beautiful. Okay.
But
that's good. Delayed till later. I like that tease. Yeah. It's a broadcast.
Again,
I don't Agent Provocateur.
Yeah.
Hey,
July 4th.
We have lots of options, guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the more intriguing names out there. I had to ask the question.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating to see where he ends up that kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, here, this is one you can't answer. Who's signing with the Leafs? We need AAV in term. All right? AAV in term.
Okay, cut.
Name names. Name names. I tried.
Well,
I tried. It's right here, and I tried.
I love that. So listen, I mean, when does this kind of cool down for you? When do you because this has got to be this has got to feel like the finish line.
Yeah. When do you get up to 4 or 5 hours a night?
Yeah.
Probably not till around August 1.
Wow. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because, July 5th is the deadline to file for salary arbitration.
Okay.
And then those cases have a life of their own with a lot of work getting done to prepare arbitration briefs and get ready for hearings. And that usually will take you until August.
Is it frustrating doing those arbitration briefs knowing that, 90% of them don't ever go to arbitration?
No, I like it.
Do you? I'm not surprised by that.
You're the one guy.
There's the guy.
You're the guy.
I part of my legal training and being a lawyer, I actually enjoy the process of watching the brief come together and working on it and the way that you sometimes want to change some words or sentences or sometimes even the whole organization of the brief. You want to move it around a bit. I enjoy that.
Wow. Well, and when do you get to have 20 uninterrupted moments or minutes with your family at any time soon too? Because I know your kids are home. They're back home from university, right?
Yes,
they are.
And they're heading out mid-August.
Okay. So you got to take advantage of that 2-week window.
That 2-week window in August is a critical time for all of us, as my wife keeps reminding me.
You have anything planned this year? You guys, or just hanging out at home?
You know what? We kind of go by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
I know it's frustrating, but we're all determined to go away somewhere. Mm-hmm. Last year we had an awesome family vacation before our daughter went to university, and we became empty nesters. So we're going to look to go somewhere, interesting and exciting where we can have some family togetherness and alone time.
I know Springsteen's on tour this summer. You going to any of the shows?
I can't believe I haven't made it out to Europe so far to see any of the shows.
Seems like a perfect vacation.
But I do.
Playing in Prague?
No.
Win some, you lose some out.
Vienna, yes.
Oh, okay.
A bunch of places in Germany. He just played in Gothenburg, Sweden last night.
Wow.
and there's going to be a fall series of shows starting in the East Coast, and then coming over to LA, and he's playing San Diego, Los Angeles, multiple nights, and then San Francisco.
You got to do the whole thing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you're right there.
That's a given, Jesse. Come on.
Can I just say that with all the numbers and terms and legal things that are floating through your head, the fact that you can remember all the concert dates for him too, it's amazing. It really is. It's like I can't remember when the Leafs are going to play a week ahead, and you're like, well, he's playing all these in, and I know he's coming through Toronto too in November. Yes, he is. So I hope you're going to be in town.
I'm going to be there.
Oh, you are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we're
going to be at a bunch of the Canadian shows.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I love that. So, Allan,
I'm in awe. I'm in awe.
Yeah. Hey,
you will be when you see him.
Oh, yeah.
We're going. We gotta go. We gotta go.
Right.
We must go. We have to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I saw Jay Weinberg. Now I got to see Max.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Jay actually, I don't know if you know this, but Jay reached out to Steve it was on Instagram.
Yeah. And he invited my dad and I to see Slipknot. I'm like, Dad, do you like Slipknot? He's like, I know of them. I was like, do you want to see them? And they melted our faces.
Yeah.
It was, it was great.
His dad's a big rock drummer too, so it was kind of a cool thing. They seem like just great guys.
He's in a band called Atomic Tomb. he's 66. Yeah. You should check it out.
He's unreal.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, we won't take any more of your time, but the fact that you're here, the fact that you made time for us, we genuinely appreciate it. It's great to see you. Like we always see each other on like Zoom or our Zoom equivalent, but it's nice to see you in person. And good luck tonight with everything.
Yeah, thank you. What a lot of people don't know is that we're like on the 4th level, and they had me climb 4 flights of stairs to get up here. And I just catching my breath right now. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks, Allan.
I don't need to go to the gym today.
We give a free cardio exam and then a podcast.
Yeah.
It's great.
Thanks again, man.
It's a pleasure.
All right, so while we were talking to Allan, Timo Meier also re-upped with New Jersey. So 8 years, $8.8 million per. Seems like a really good contract. I mean, it was funny meeting those Devils guys yesterday. They're like, you're one of us. I mean, who doesn't want to be a New Jersey Devils fan now? I'm going to read you some of the contracts. So you got Timo Meier, 26 years old, $8.8 million for the next 8 years. You got Jack Hughes, 22 years old, $8 million for that contract ends in 29-30. You got Jesper Bratt, and that contract, he's 24. That contract ends in 30-31. Nico Hischier for 4 more years. He's 24. Andre Palat, which was the big signing last summer, who I absolutely adore. They've just added Tyler Toffoli at $4 million. And remember, they still have Erik Haula as well. And then on defense, Dougie Hamilton for 5 more at $9 million. John Marino, underrated, $4.4 million, is 26. Jonas Siegenthaler, 26, $3.4 million for another 5 years. Luke Hughes is on there. Obviously, you've got Brendan Smith. They probably need to fill out a little bit more in their defensive side. And then, Vitek Vanacek and Akira Schmid. And Akira Schmid had the playoffs. Is this guy for real? Do we know? Vitek Vanacek's got 2 more years at $3.4 million. Both of those goalies. Vanacek is 27. Akira Schmid is 23. That is a pretty young and spectacular dynamic roster.
Let me give you an idea of how good of a job the New Jersey Devils are doing. So all we're talking about is, you got to take these short-term deals. You got to take these short-term deals because the cap is going to go up, and it's going to go up, and don't worry about it, the cap is going to go up. He's got all of them on long-term deals. Tom Fitzgerald does. All of them on long-term deals. The biggest one is 8.8. Not a single one of those stars is over 9. Like, some of these things are going to turn into a pumpkin. You know what I mean? Like, Akira Schmid is not going to make, like, what is it, league minimum forever, right? And
Dougie Hamilton's 30. There might be some regression midway through the next 5 years, maybe.
Yeah, but, like,
pretty
some
good.
of the other deals offset that. Jack Hughes being the age he is, and Nico Hischier. Like, I really do think the way their team is structured, they could have several contracts that look like Nathan McKinnon's before he started making 12.6. Like, he was making 6.1 or whatever it was, running over the league, getting like 90 points.
Yep.
And running over the playoffs. A lot of people forget this because John Tavares makes $11 million now, but his Islanders contract was stupid. He was
really a 5.9
again, like one of the leading goal scorers in the NHL, and he was making 5.9, I think, for 6 years. These are the types of contracts the New Jersey Devils could have because their cap situation looks good in the context of today. Tomorrow, it's going to be bonkers. Like, you're talking about a perennial cup contender for at least the next half decade. They
probably can add. Next year they go up another $4 million. They could probably add. Yeah.
I've done no bigger 180 on my opinion on a team than I have on the New Jersey Devils. They're stellar.
They're going to be a monster.
The last piece is to get guaranteed goaltending.
Yeah.
Like to get the starting goalie that you know, and maybe that turns out to be Akira Schmid. Like it's still a question mark, but like that's the last piece because the core is so young and talented and it's there.
And it's reasonable to just expect every player on the roster, almost every player on the roster, to just get naturally better.
Yeah.
Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes, Heischer, Brott. Oh my God.
Because there's so much going on, we're going to move through this stuff relatively quickly. The first thing I want to get to, and since you know what? I'll save them, actually. I do want to get to Pierre-Luc Dubois. Traded to LA, according to Darren Dreger, a very complicated thing to make happen, but Dubois signed an 8-year deal with Winnipeg and then was immediately traded. We're seeing more signed trades in the NHL finally.
Basically, it was signed with Winnipeg? I thought it was signed with LA.
No, it was signed with Winnipeg.
It's got to be a sign and trade to get the 8 years.
Yeah,
you can't sign for 8 with the team.
Yes.
So year one is a $1 million base with an $8 million signing bonus. And then there are a lot of signing bonuses throughout. But towards the end of the deal, you're still looking at about $6.8 million that they're just paying as a base salary. However, think about it in the context of what that will be on the cap years from now.
Well, not to cut you off, but who pays that signing bonus? He signed in Winnipeg.
I think LA pays that. I think
he's probably due the signing bonus on July 1st.
That's it.
Oh.
That's it.
And
that's
then
it.
he's property of
because
that's when
it's
they pay it
a
out.
future. It's technically a future contract.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Before we get to the Jets part of this, and the Jets part of this is very, very interesting. I think that when you look at LA's top 3 centermen, bit of a murderer's row here. We've got Kopitar, who can score and shut you down. Yep. You got to know who is, to me, still the ultimate shutdown center in the league, and then Dubois, who can play defense but is offensively very gifted. Hasn't had the opportunity to perhaps let that loose with the dearth of talent that he's played with in Columbus.
He hasn't
Winnipeg.
had the opportunity to play in a situation that he enjoys.
Yeah, I want to see Pierre-Luc Dubois on a team that gives a damn about defense.
That's true.
I want to see PLD in a situation that he cares about.
That too.
Give a damn about a team that he likes.
Better give a damn now.
He's pretty good in situations that he hates. So imagine him happy.
That's a really good point. Now, and the thing is that like he doesn't have to. All those defensive zone he could take the defensive zone face off, but he's never really going to have to in the playoffs. Deneau and Kopitar are going to take that, and he's going to get all the ozone starts, which are going to pump his numbers. And the reality is, this is an 8-year contract that again looks really good. He's 24 years old. If he can pump 80 to 90 points, which is what people think he might be able to do.
It is a lot.
It's a lot to ask.
Even
70. That's not going to be a crazy deal for LA to deal with. And here's my question. When you look at, and we'll get to Colorado in a second, but I want to bring up Colorado and I want to bring up Edmonton. Because that's who LA has got to be thinking about, along with Vegas, which is the obvious one.
Interesting.
Who has got the best 3 centers overall? You would say Edmonton because of Connor McDavid. But balance-wise and shutdown-wise, is it not the Kings?
Well, and Byfield. We're all forgetting Byfield in this equation, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, because Dubois can play wing.
Mm-hmm. And if Kopitar starts to slow down, they can put him on the wing.
They can put him on the wing. So I wonder if they have such a... Like, we're looking at this 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, we're looking at this too close-minded. Is there going to be some transition at some point of Kopitar playing a little bit of wing? Does Dubois play a little bit of wing? Do they have 3 or 4 of these centers play together?
Well, Byfield played some wing last year, right?
Yeah, he played a little left wing, but you want Byfield to be a center because he has the ability to be a center. You want him to eventually develop into that.
Yeah. So who has the best? I mean, I'd say they might have the best center depth in the league, but McDavid's a cheat code.
Yeah.
Matthews, Tavares, Kerfoot?
No, that hasn't happened yet.
I will beat you up. I will throw you off the balcony, Jesse Blake.
The Winnipeg Jets will get Gabe Vilardi, Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kupari, along with a second-round selection next year, which is a pretty good haul.
That is unreal.
Yeah.
Iafallo is such a great player. He's such a pure goal scorer.
I wanted the Leafs to get him so bad.
And the fact that they get this haul of a deal for a guy who didn't want to be there, and they get all of these different pieces that'll set them up to be competitive this year. It's not like they traded for future assets. They played for guys who are really good right now. Winnipeg, Kevin Shovelday did a great job.
They're going to struggle a little bit up the middle if they end up getting rid of Scheifele as well.
And the word is they're going to, and also they're going to buy out Wheeler.
Oy. So that's going to be
Wheeler's
tough,
a winger, but
they'll have some space to do it, and who knows, maybe they flip one or two of the 4 assets they got for Dubois. Like, they're all quality assets, right? Like, there's no throw in there. I like Vilardi. I like Iafallo. I like Kupari, actually. And a second-round pick is pretty good to have. There's no throw-ins there. There's no fat on that cut of meat. That is a good deal for the Jets, who we thought were backed into a corner. Something
I wonder about for the Jets over the next few days is the decision of what is Nikolai Ehlers to the future of this team. It didn't seem like he and Rick Bowness meshed, and I'm not talking about personality-wise, but he just did not get the usage that you would think, right? This is a guy that, for a while, people really compared him to William Nylander. And that trajectory has not matched, but he's still a very, very good hockey player. He'd have a lot of value to another team, but, does this free up more room for him, or does this mean, okay, maybe we got to move on from him too?
I think it pushes him down.
Right.
Because, they got more wing depth. Trading him for a center who can help you now, I think makes a lot of sense. Here's the problem. I think Ehlers is better than his usage as well, but he was drafted the same draft as William Nylander. That was 2014. That was 9 years ago. That's a long time ago. And that means he's a young man in regular people terms, but that is
you're a vet.
That's a vet in the prime of his career who's, for whatever reason, injuries, coach doesn't like you, not satisfied with the defense. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's a combination of all of it. He hasn't really played high up in the lineup. He hasn't consistently played top line. So if he gets that opportunity, it'll come at a cost.
Right.
And the cost is you will get your opportunity. You likely will not be competing for a Stanley Cup.
Right.
Because the team competing for the Stanley Cup, they got their first line figured out probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Canadiens.
It's possible.
And
LA added Barbashev.
We would normally go longer, but I am going to move quickly just because we have limited time, and also because a lot of this is going to be, we're going to be like wrapping all this stuff up on Friday too. The Canadiens pay in my mind anyway, baffling amount for Alex Newhook. 31st, which is a first-round pick, and the 37th pick tonight. So that's a first and a second for Newhook, who had 14 goals and 16 assists. He's a former 16th overall pick. A lot of people last season looked to him to potentially be the second-line center after Kadri left, maybe step up. It didn't end up happening. JT Compher was more of a fit for that role, and we've got more on him a little bit later. But I read Erik Engel's post this morning with Sportsnet.ca, and he said whether the Canadiens are better off with Newhook than they would have been with Dubois, who's 6'2" and plays every bit his size, is questionable at best. The wager that the Canadiens are making on him is that it is very little risk, and it's somewhat similar to what Kirby Dach was last year. And it would be more opportunity to work with the development staff that the Canadiens have built. I guess they've got some new cutting-edge facilities and that sort of thing. Newhook's value will be capitalized on much faster than the value of the picks that Colorado got. Now, Colorado has moved on from one of those picks already. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to get your guys' reaction to Alex Newhook, and probably slots it as the third line center here, right?
Well, so last year we praised Montreal for making a bet on Kirby Dach. Third overall pick, had barely got his feet wet in the league, COVID and all that, and they took a bet on him, and he was fine. Mm-hmm. Not great, fine. It was difficult to have a great season on the Montreal Canadiens. So you look at that and you go, okay, that's why Alex Newhook could work. Mm-hmm. Ooh, you gave up maybe we shouldn't look at it as first and second.
Okay.
We should look at it as 30th, or was it 31st?
31st.
31st
37th.
and 37th.
Yeah.
So that's how we should look at it. Like, remember a few years ago, Ryan Reeves was traded for a first, and everyone freaked out that Ryan Reeves was traded for a first? He wasn't. What it was I think it was the Penguins moved back something like a dozen picks in order to get him. Not dissimilar to how the Leafs moved down in order to get rid of Mrazek. They tied a first to Peter Mrazek. No, you just looked at it as they moved down a little bit. But the 31st pick and the 37th, plus you're giving Newhook, what was it, 6?
Yeah.
Hooey! And, you can laugh.
Oh, wait, Newhook? Is that what they're paying him?
I feel like we've had so many conversations since we landed here in Nashville.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But I feel like that was the rumor when we were walking through the airport. I don't know if it's finalized.
Yeah, it's not. Not as of yet.
Well, he's going to get a lot of money.
No deal in Montreal yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of money, so I guess we'll hold back on that. If he's making significantly more than Kirby Dach, it makes me like the deal a lot less. But listen, Leaf fan, so there have been plenty of deals where I've had to talk myself into liking. Part of your duty as a fan is to delude yourself into thinking bad decisions are good ones.
And you're smarter than everybody. Your team's smarter.
Yes. So, Habs fans, if you're not sure about this and you're feeling bad, I got you covered. Here's how you trick yourself into thinking this move is good. First of all, it might be. That's by luck. Number 2, Kent Hughes used to be his agent.
Yes.
So, any other GM makes this trade, any other GM makes this bet, they're weird. They're really weird. Why would you make this bet? Why would you give all that up? Why would you give him all this money? You're weird. Kent Hughes, who's done basically nothing but awesome moves since he got to Montreal, he knows this player. He knows his potential. He knows this guy. I sometimes criticize GMs for loving their guys.
Yep.
And that is a problem. But I don't think this is a GM taking a random whoops-a-daisy flyer on a guy he happens to know. This is a GM giving up real assets for a former top 20 pick in the NHL. Who might have just had a bad season.
And maybe fits their window.
So
I liked them in their cup run.
The problem with the overpay, which I think it is for loving your guys, is that oftentimes you're not competing with anybody when you pay these prices. Because I was talking to producer Drew, and the way he was looking at the draft picks, he's like, either you look at it as you got 2 firsts for him or you got 2 seconds because it's on the back of the first round or it's on the front of the second round. And if you look at it at that, it's a lot to pay for a guy who has a career high of 14 goals. Damn. So if you're paying those prices, I got to ask, who's competing with Kent Hughes to get this player, or is he paying this much because he likes him so much? And in that, I criticize the GM for giving all of these assets, which could have been valuable to go get somebody who's going to play what? Your third line left wing?
Yep.
Like, Newhook played a lot of, I don't know if he's going to be the center in Montreal. He can play center, but he played a lot of wing for Colorado. And that's a lot for your third line.
Maybe that's good. Maybe it's good that he's versatile and could do both.
Maybe the
Listen,
Canadiens
again,
want
I'm
him on the
trying
wing.
to help people trick themselves into liking this.
Is that the goal here?
Yeah. He's an East Coaster,
Sure.
A lot of Habs fans out there on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. I wish I wasn't sure, but no, he's a Newfoundlander. But you know what I mean? I liked him in the Cup run. There's value to having a kid who got all that experience. He was given an opportunity for a bump and
yes,
he didn't succeed.
He didn't take that opportunity at all last year. He didn't flourish in the role, but he is 22, like you said. And you go back to the 2022 season, that recently he was in the AHL for 10 games that year. You know, like he was down there, and then he joins them for the playoffs and all that stuff. So it's still a project, but it's a lot to pay for a project. When there are so many question marks around a player, I'm surprised you had to pay that price.
Yeah, but also, like, when are these players ever available? Like, Pierre-Luc Dubois, who has had far more individual NHL success than Alex Newhook. Obviously, Newhook has the ring. He's only a couple years older, but part of the reason you're LA and you give up so much for him, 3 roster players, basically, or 2 roster players, a prospect and a decent pick, is 24-year-olds who are really good don't become available very often, right? And sometimes they turn into Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Sure.
So
I just need some evidence that the Alex Newhook market was going crazy, and Kent Hughes had to throw in these picks.
It does feel a little bit like Joe Sakic took advantage of a relationship that he knew was there, and he knew that Kent Hughes coveted the player.
Joe Sakic.
I think it's fair to admit that looks like it's the
looks
case.
like it. Whether it is or not, I don't know.
I was talking to someone about this deal,
and we can't linger here too much longer. Yeah. There's too much to get through.
No,
just
I know.
You guys I'm throwing that out there.
I was talking about, oh man, Joe Sakic, that guy's an animal, and they were like, well, you know, he's not GM anymore, right? And I kind of forgot he's president. It's Chris McFarland.
But the way we should look at it is the president is the GM. That's the new GM role.
Yeah.
So just no credit for McFarland.
There was some checking
Bobby
on
Webster.
For the Avs part. There was some checking on JT Compher, who apparently wants somewhere in the neighborhood of like $5 to $6 million, and that's too expensive for the Avs. So they made a trade this morning. That 37th overall pick, the second rounder. I'm actually surprised it wasn't the first rounder. Is going to Tampa Bay for Ross Colton, who competitive and strong, and I wonder. So is Colorado, are they Nathan McKinnon, Colton on the third line, and then on the second line, why am I drawing a blank on who they traded for yesterday? 2 days ago, Ryan Johansson. Yeah. So, and I'm looking, and the reason I brought up the LA Center thing is because the 4 teams to me that really stand out in the West are LA, Colorado, Edmonton, and Vegas. Obviously, they're the Cup winners. Those, when I look at the centers on that, I'm beyond Nathan McKinnon. Ross Colton is extremely competitive, amazing in the playoffs. Is he the next step? Can he be the next Kadri? Because they've been searching for that since Kadri left.
Yeah. Well, on Tampa, I'm trying to remember if he was even full-time.
No, he played
a
lot of wing.
A lot of wing. Yeah, but that's because you got Point and
right. But you look at Ross
Cirelli.
Colton and the player he is at 26. You're like, he's just better Alex Newhook.
Currently, definitely. Yeah. Oh, like Avs fans, the best news for you is I saw this deal and like, listen, if the Avs do great, whatever. If they do poorly, whatever. They're in the Western Conference.
So is Newhook and a second for Ross Colton essentially?
Is that
because they didn't trade the first? They kept the first.
That's right. Well, yeah, Ross Colton in a first.
Right.
Yeah. So they got that back.
So I look at it exactly.
Pretty good.
That's great wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
But Avs fans, my first thought was, yes, Colton's out of the division.
Oh, yeah.
Any piece of that friggin' Tampa team you can pick off of the carcass. Mm-hmm. The carcass that might, win a cup. Please do. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like,
so, and you asked the question about, like, why are these guys available? Ross Colton's available in Tampa because he's an RFA and needs a new deal and they can't afford it.
Right. I guess Colorado can.
There are guys that come up available. You don't need to overpay.
This is a fascinating, like, we're going to probably skip over, like, huge deals because there have been, like, 10 trades since we landed?
Yeah, and we got a show on Friday.
Milan Lucic, SDPN's Chris Johnston, and Rick Dhaliwal. Donnie and Dolly out in Vancouver. It looks like Lucic to the Bruins is going to happen. Whether it's today or tomorrow, the reunion is extremely imminent.
As it should be.
Moving on, though, I do want to talk about the Leafs a little bit here, too. 3 teams are in on Erik Karlsson. The Leafs are one of them. Carolina and Seattle purported to be the others. It's surprising that Carolina would be in on that, but then it's not when you consider, the Brent Burns and the Max Pacioretty deals last offseason. The question becomes, and again, I think the Leafs, of the 3 teams on that, they're the third most likely to get them because of the cap situation and this sticking to their core 4.
The Carolina thing doesn't make sense because why would they reunite Burns and Karlsson when we saw
we saw it not work?
If we saw for a decade it didn't work.
Unless Burns is going back.
But I think Brett Pesce might be on the way out in Carolina.
Yeah, but still, and let's not forget the Tony DeAngelo thing. So you're gonna have a right side of Karlsson, Burns, DeAngelo.
That's a weird one. My eyebrows raised when I saw Carolina because I was like, we have Burns and Karlsson for a decade.
Carolina doesn't have to do DeAngelo, by the way. They cannot do it.
They could simply. That is certainly what I would do.
Yeah,
is not do.
Well, if you got Karlsson, you don't need DeAngelo. Sorry, Philly, you can keep him.
You may never need DeAngelo.
Yeah.
You may never need Karlsson.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody last night who would know, and they were like, well, they like him because he's cheap. DeAngelo.
Oh, DeAngelo.
Yeah. And I was like,
at half. I forgot that it was half retained.
So
God, that's a nightmare if it happens.
Because I was like, why? Erik Karlsson, though, is interesting because previously, the only thing we've ever heard from Mike Grier is that the most he's willing to knock off that contract, guys, is like 20%. So that brings you down to about $9.75, maybe $9.5 million for Erik Karlsson because his contract's 11.5. So he must have moved off that number. He knows he's got to make this move. Guys won the Norris Trophy. He's got you a 100-point season. At a certain point with the injury history, everybody's assumption, I'm not speaking out of school here, is that this turns into a pumpkin. We just don't know how quickly. I don't understand how he fits the Leaf system. I don't fully understand. I'm with you guys on the Carolina thing. It's a bit odd. Seattle makes sense to me. They got the cap room.
Seattle does make sense.
They've got the assets. And they really are a team. Matty Beniers did win the Calder, but they're like the most spread out, even team that we've seen in a long time, perhaps other than the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't really have like a star.
You need a little star power.
Mm-hmm. And Erik kind of makes sense. They've got a full cupboard. They've got draft picks. They got everything the Sharks could need.
Seems to like the West.
Yeah.
It seems to be comfy out there.
They wouldn't even have to change colors all that much.
Yeah. Go a little north, keep the same jersey.
It's still turquoise.
Yeah.
I like to have fun. I'm trying to picture how Erik Karlsson becomes a Leaf. I can't. I can't do it.
I think what's going to matter here is what William Nylander's number comes in at. Because if you're William Nylander, you look at Pierre-Luc Dubois, you scored 20 more points than him last year alone. But you've been a playoff performer as well. And yeah, there have been people that have like quote unquote questioned your motivation. But if you look at William Nylander on the whole, guy's pretty motivated.
Don't play center.
Doesn't play center. Okay, fine. You don't play center. How much of a discount is that though?
Well, so to me, the better comparable would be Meier, because Meier plays a lot more wing than Dubois does. Meier is getting 8.8. You're William Nylander. Are you Timo Meier?
You're better.
No, you're not. You think you're better?
I think he's better.
I think skill-wise, you may have a point, but physically imposing himself.
Every day of the week, Willie over Timo.
Like, Timo did not have a good playoff.
No, he's terrible.
He has historically had a good playoff, though.
Yep.
So if you're just looking at, recent regular seasons, I mean, if we just go strictly by points, all those guys are going to have inflated totals because everything is built around them. And if you're not scoring, nobody's scoring.
Yeah.
Right? So those guys it's like they've got themselves into a cycle where they're
the agent
going to be the top
the
guys.
agent's going to say, but if you're keeping him here, he is one of those guys. So inflated totals or not, you can't use that argument because he's going to be the one scoring.
It's looking more and more like they need to just make a decision on Marner or William Nylander because the word of the contract is that he wants in the 9 range and they're not willing to go that. But 8 also doesn't work because it's going to be like high 8s, right? It's going to be in and around the Timo number if they get him down to that, down to the 8 from whatever that is. And then how do you fit your other winger?
And then Matthews getting a gigantic raise. But now, we heard from Frank Saravalli.
So you go into July 1st, you don't have a contract extension with Willie. You can't really play out the season and then let him walk. Like, that's unforgivable if they let that happen. So if they can't get to that number, there's a decision to be made on how you move out pieces to get him to that number, or which one you're going to re-sign. And there's a reckoning coming with the Leafs where they need to make a decision.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for some sort of decision from Treliving and co.
So I've been saying it's got to be one of Marner or Nylander, and both players are extremely good. But tying this into another topic from today, David Kampf, around $2.5 million.
There's conflicting reports. Is it 2.4? Is it 2.5?
So too much. Do we all agree?
Well, okay.
I like the player, but too much.
James Myrtle tweeted his market value in free agency would be $3 million plus.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because this free agent class stinks. And you'd have to replace him somehow.
They got a free agent on a deal, if you look at it.
When you think of it that way. Yeah. But there's another way to think of this. I actually think term... This is a rare example where term makes me more comfortable. Because if he only got 1 or 2 years, I'd be like, well, okay, so now he's at 2.5, and the cap's not really going up. That sucks. Mm-hmm. He got a $1 million raise. That wipes out the Leafs cap bump this year. You used it on David Kampf. You know what I mean? That's pretty tough. 4 years, though. In 3-4 years, you're not going to give a shit about $2.5 million. But I linked it to Marner. Marner is probably the most important penalty killer on the team. He was second runner-up for the Selke, third place, I think. Mm-hmm. He's an incredible part of what the straw that stirs the Leafs drink. Matthews does not kill penalties. Tavares does not kill penalties. That is, by the time Matthews signs his extension, that's going to be something like $25 million worth of centers who don't kill penalties. So David Kampf's role on this team, I'd be asking for $2.5 million too. Like, who's gonna be a center on your penalty kill if it's not me? Who's gonna, like, are you gonna throw Matthews out there? He's gonna be blocking shots. Is that what's gonna happen? Right. What winger are you gonna teach to take faceoffs this time? We're going right back to the Babcock days where Hyman's your number one defensive center despite not being one at all. What about Noel Achari? He's not signed. What about Ryan O'Reilly? Well, he's not signed. So it all works together where Kampf is actually important enough to this team for the role he plays where he's worth the money. And also because your top two guys don't kill penalties. Matthews has improved leaps and bounds defensively, but your top two centers don't kill penalties. I don't know if you can afford to let go of Marner unless you do some real finagling with this team.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, Kampf is overpaid, no question, in the first year of this deal. And free agency, you are always overpaid. But I guess if you're the Leafs and you're looking at it on balance, year one he's overpaid, year two he's probably par, and year 3 and 4 he's under. So you come out net positive in the Leafs thing. But again, what are they going to do this year? And I think this is why they had to sign Kampf. It's like their bottom six. Who the fuck is in their bottom six in the forward?
Absolutely no idea.
And we know that Treliving wants to completely remake the defense. Whether or not he's able to do it is interesting. But the fact that they're even talking about Erik Karlsson tells you that there could be a completely new look this year.
Well, and the D is what's locked up.
I know. Yeah. I know. You're right. Yeah.
So, right. So this is, we looked at Craig Conroy and we're like, how is he going to pull all this off?
Yep.
And I'm looking at Treliving. I'm looking at what needs to be done, which actually conflicts with what he wants to get done. And I'm like, okay, but you haven't done anything. When are all these... Is he just going to do a shitload on the draft floor and all of us are going to have to come back and redo this? Because if he wants to reconstruct the defense and he also has to add to the bottom six, when's this all happening?
Exactly.
Is he going to...
It's going to have to happen in the next couple of weeks, is it not?
Yeah. No. Could happen in July.
I guess.
And
I guess.
Which is in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it is June 28th.
Yeah.
I do want to say a couple things before we do kind of go on. The Kevin Hayes deal disappointed Flyers fans. I think that they thought the return was nothing. And it's interesting going back. I was reading the Philadelphia Inquirer this morning, And when Torts was introduced last June, he said, I want to try to help him. Because if I can help him and make him understand that we're going to try to get him on another level and what he does for the Flyers organization, I've watched him from afar, and there's more there. That relationship deteriorated to the point where in February, Kevin Hayes was openly speaking to the media about a trade. And you got to remember, this guy came back from 3 abdominal surgeries the previous season, and then, of course, the tragic passing of his brother, Jimmy Hayes, beloved Boston Bruin player. He was an all-star this year. And, he gets a fresh start in St. Louis. So it's a good deal for St. Louis because they get him at 50%. It's a good deal for Kevin. If you're a Flyers fan, I want you to hear me on this one. The most important thing, the most valuable thing that you can get this offseason, no matter who you are, is cap space. It's more valuable than a first-round pick. If Chicago had the Connor Bedard pick available, that's the most valuable piece. But besides that, this is the most valuable thing you can do. So what Danny Briere did, who cares what came back? What came back was $3.5 million.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't spend to the cap this year because they don't need to, but they're the third man in on a trade that needs to work for a double retention, and it gets them more assets there. You're going to have to look at this trade on balance with what they do with that cap space going forward. It is unquestionably, anybody we speak to, that's the thing people are looking for.
We don't know for sure they're trading Scott Laughton or Travis Konechny, but from what I'm hearing, they're going to get like an absolute windfall for them.
Yeah, Konechny's going to be crazy.
Someone's going to grossly overpay for those players.
Oh,
not that they're bad.
Stars have re-signed Evgeny Dadonov this morning. 2 years, $2.25 million per. He went from the Sens to the Golden Knights to then almost the Ducks, and then that trade was called back. And then Montreal last year finally found a home in Dallas. This guy can score. And here's the thing: at $2.25 million, he's a winger, maybe not defensively sound, but when we talk about depth scoring, one of the problems, and I'm going to use the Leafs as an example. The Leafs got eliminated from the playoffs because they scored 2 goals a game for the final 7 games. Mm-hmm. That's why they did. Dallas will have more depth scoring because of a guy like this. And that's what the Leafs have to try to find, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing. So a couple names I wanted to bring up to you guys.
We do need to wrap.
And then we're going to wrap. Mark Spector believes that Klim Kostin and Kailer Yamamoto are gone with the Oilers. Klim's contract's up. Yamamoto would be a $500,000 penalty this year and next. Something to keep in mind. Both players might be good fits for an East Coast team that we cheer for, but we'll wrap it up there. The Oilers are looking for a defenseman. So we got the live stream tonight. Jesse, get to editing. Sorry that we have to leave you with this.
Here, I want to leave you with a bold prediction.
Go, do it.
Adam Fantilli goes 4th.
Oh, my God. That'd be crazy.
That would be nuts.
All right. Let's see it. Thanks for watching.
The Steve Dangle Podcast.
Powered by Sports Interaction. Want to bet?
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.